Hello everybody and welcome to the Experience Show. My name's Rachel and I'm your host today. I am the founder of a company called the Experience Corporation, and I help companies to train their customer facing staff so they can increase customer retention, customer satisfaction and the skills of their employees. And in this video, I am going to be delivering some customer service skills training, and it's all about how to handle challenging customers. Now, this video is going to be a great resource if you yourself are managing a team of customer facing staff and you just want some tips and some guidance on what to do when your team have a customer who is expressing challenging behavior. Now, what I'm going to share in the video can be applied for telephone calls with customers, face-to-face interactions, even Zoom calls if that's the kind of industry that you work in. And speaking of industries, this is for anyone who works in a customer-facing role, in particular for call centers, contact centers, for hotels, hospitality, and non-profit organizations. So let's dive straight into the training. So when your team are dealing with customers in their day-to-day interactions, it's inevitable that every now and again, they are going to come across a challenging customer. Now, there are four main types of challenging customer, which all challenging customers kind of fall under. So there's like an umbrella of these four different types of customer. And I'm going to take you through each of them. And for each challenging customer, I'm going to give you some very practical things on what you can do to handle these customers and their queries and their issues and whatever it is they are upset about or angry about or whatever it may be. So what are the four types of challenging customer? Well, I'm glad you asked. Number one, you have the classic, the angry customer. Number two is the emotional customer. Number three is the oversharing customer. And number four is the complaining customer. All of them are challenging in their own way. They can all be stressful. I've had to deal with many of them throughout my career, but there are certainly some things you can do to deal with those customers in the appropriate way and in a professional way as well. So let's dive in, first of all, to the angry customer. So how do we define an angry customer? Well, this person is going to be expressing and displaying aggressive behavior. They may be shouting at you. They may be throwing accusations at you. A classic is that they want to speak to your manager immediately, and their overall state of being is anger, frustration, and they're demonstrating this in a very obvious way. And they can also sometimes make you feel a little bit intimidated. And we're going to talk about what happens when that happens, when a line gets crossed in terms of what you should and shouldn't tolerate. So an angry customer can be very challenging to deal with, especially face-to-face and also over the telephone, because if their anger is directed at you or at one of your staff members, it can feel almost like they've got a massive issue with you when actually they may be angry at something that's happened with the company or even a completely random external situation. So that's what an angry customer is. So what do we do to deal with an angry customer? And also, how can we make sure we remain professional and not kind of feed into their anger so that we also get angry? What do we do? So there are 6 strategies that you can implement to deal with an angry customer. So the first thing you want to do is to gain an understanding. Why is this person angry? Why are they so upset? What is the cause of their issue? Is it something the company has done? Is it something that you have done personally as a customer service rep speaking to them? Is it something completely unrelated to the query that they are trying to resolve? So gain an understanding by, where possible, asking them questions such as, can I just ask, is there something in particular that the company has done or that I have done to make you feel upset? Or you may not even have to ask them a question because it may be obvious from what they're already saying to you. So if you work in a hotel and they're angry that their food is cold and they're just saying, you know, my food is cold, this is unacceptable, then you know the reason why they are angry is because of the cold food. If you are dealing with a customer over the phone, then just jot down the reasons why they're angry so you can take a note. If you're face to face, then make a mental note of what's going on and what the root cause of this problem is. The second thing you want to do is to remain calm and professional. It's very easy when somebody is angry and throwing accusations at you to mirror that person's behavior by also becoming angry. But remember, you are there to do a job, and part of that job is to stay professional. And also, getting angry back at the customer is not going to resolve anything. I have been in situations where I have seen colleagues really going for it, having arguments with customers, and I completely understand if someone's being rude and disrespectful to you, then our natural instinct can sometimes be to throw some accusations back at the person. But trust me, it's not going to win the battle. A gentle response will calm this person down. So second thing, remain calm at all times, regardless of how angry that person is. The third thing you want to do is to allow the customer to speak. Now, if they are throwing verbal abuse at you or swearing or anything like that, then we'll talk about what to do in that situation. But if they are just expressing themselves and they have a bit of an angry tone, allow them to talk, get it off of their chest so that they feel like they're being heard. Now, the next thing you want to do after that is to take control of the situation. And once you've let them speak, you now want to interject and say, "Excuse me, sir, thank you so much," or "Madame," or, if you know the person's name, "Thank you so much for explaining why you're upset. Now, in order for me to help you," and then you just want to go into your resolution or how it is you're going to resolve the query. So now you've remained calm, you have allowed them to speak, and now you're taking control of the situation. The next thing you want to do is to provide what's called a corporate apology. A corporate apology is where you are saying sorry for anything that your organization has done to upset this customer. Now, it may not be that you have personally done something, but it may be that they have experienced a situation with your company that has caused them stress, frustration, and now they're angry. So it's just say, "I'm really sorry from myself and from the whole organization and from my team. I am so sorry that X has happened and that you feel Y." Finally, you are going to reassure the customer that you are going to do everything in your power to help them resolve their issue. Once you've remained calm, you've taken control, you've given that corporate apology, then you want to reassure the customer and then find a solution. So in that example, you're going to be saying something like, "I'm so sorry on behalf of ourselves and the Hilton Hotel." Let's say you work at the Hilton. "What we're going to do, sir, is number one, I'm immediately going to speak to the chef, give them your feedback, and bring out a meal to you in the next 5 to 10 minutes. I'm so sorry for the additional wait, but we want to make sure we get the order correct this time. Next thing is we're going to take this meal off of your bill so you will not be charged for it." I'm telling you, if you approach an angry customer with a resolution, with a calm tone, they are highly likely to calm down, to stop being angry, to stop making a scene, and to be actually now appreciating the fact that you're trying to help them. Okay, the final thing I want to speak about when it comes to an angry customer is termination. Now, termination, it works better over the phone, and termination is basically where you cut the call off and you give the customer a warning, or if it's in person, you explain to them that, you're going to have to get security to escort them off the building. This is something you can use in an extreme situation where a customer is hurtling abusive language at you, such as swearing, derogatory terms, things like of that nature. And your company should hopefully have a policy of what to do in those situations. But overall, you should have the authority, and if you're watching this for your team should have the authority and the reassurance that they can terminate a call or ask a customer to leave the premises via security if they are really very angry and almost making you feel intimidated to that point. So of course, go through these steps I mentioned previously. However, if it starts to get out of hand and it's way above what your tolerance level is, then either seek out a manager or terminate the phone call or get them removed from the premises. Okay, challenging customer number 2 is the emotional customer. Now, an emotional customer is someone who's speaking to you, but they are very distraught, upset, crying, and they have a lot of big emotions, which is making it kind of challenging for you to actually do your job and resolve their query. They are probably going to have a genuine reason as to why they are so emotional, why they are so upset. This may be because they are dealing with a really hard situation, such as the death of a loved one, the death of a pet. I've actually dealt with a very emotional customer who was very upset about their pet dying or the possibility of their pet dying. So I'm not a pet person, so I don't actually understand that fully, but I still had to be empathetic to the situation. Or it may be that they're dealing with financial stress, things of that nature. So how do we deal with an emotional customer when they're crying, they're upset, and they are really, it's very difficult to actually communicate with them in an effective way to deal with their query. Okay, so there's a couple of things you want to do. Firstly, you want to demonstrate empathy. You need to be empathetic to the situation. If the person tells you, I'm upset because my nan, which means grandma, if I'm British, so nan, grandma, my grandmother just passed away, we were very close. Demonstrate empathy by saying, I'm so sorry for your loss. Don't just brush past what she says so you can try and sort out their query. Demonstrate that empathy by responding to what they're saying and apologizing for their loss, or saying you're so sorry that they're going through such a hard time, or anything of that nature. So that's the first thing you want to do. Don't be cold like a fridge. Be warm, be welcoming, be friendly, even though they're crying and they're upset. The next thing you want to do throughout this customer interaction is to be sensitive. So if they do give you and trust you with sensitive information, such as, I'm going through financial hardship, I don't even know how I'm going to feed my children tomorrow, then be sensitive to that and explain to them, again, I'm so sorry about that, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you with that problem. Another way you can be sensitive is if the person's crying, then give them that space and that time to cry. If you're in person, offer them a tissue. If you're over the phone, explain to them that you're going to give them a few moments, or do they need a few moments before they can speak, something of that nature. The next thing to do, which is very important, is to deal with the query in the same way as you would for any query. Find out how you can help them, find out what it is you can do specifically to resolve their query today, find out if what they're upset about is related to what you're trying to help them with, and just deal with that customer inquiry in the usual way. It's very easy to get sucked in to their emotions, but remember, you're there to do a job, and part of being professional is continuing on despite whatever's going on with your customer. So we're not going to rush them through a process. We're still being sensitive, we're still being empathetic. However, we are ensuring that other customers are not going to be drastically impacted, and the service levels are not going to drop in our call center, in our hotel, whatever it may be, because this person is now holding up your time or your team's time to deal with other queries. The final two steps for an emotional customer is to firstly explain to them that you're going to do everything that you can to help them. So you want to be explaining what's going to happen next with their query, and while still being sensitive and empathetic. And finally, you want to offer a callback if you're over the phone, because it may be better for them to go away, have a cry, be upset, deal with their emotions, and then come back to you. But what you can do to help them is offer a time to actually call them back and help them with their query. The third challenging customer is what I call the oversharing customer. Now, the oversharing customer provides lots of information. They like to have a chat with you. They may be telling you unrelated information about their personal lives, which is unrelated to how you can help them. They may be elderly, they may be a little bit lonely, and they just want to have a chat. They may also have a genuine query that needs to be resolved, but it can sometimes be buried underneath all of their oversharing. So how do we deal with a customer like that without being rude, without trying to sort of, get rid of them? Here's a couple of things that you can do to help with an oversharing customer. The first thing is to make sure, if you're over the phone, you have a very professional greeting, and at the end of the greeting, you say to your customers, how is it I can help you today? Also, if you're face-to-face, maybe on a reception desk, be very clear, how can I help you today? Now, when you ask that question, it really kind of corners an oversharing customer, before they've even shared anything to tell you how you can help them. It sounds really obvious, but having that key question is going to encourage them to tell you what you can do to help them on that day. The next thing you want to do is allow them to speak. It may not be clear from the onset that they are an oversharing customer, but maybe they want to have a chat about their dog or about their late husband or about the traffic on the road. So give them a little bit of time to speak. They may get to the point, but if they don't, the next thing you want to do is to politely interrupt them. Now, you want to be very direct, but also polite and professional. Now, you can say, for example, Mrs. Harris, is it okay if I just interrupt you there? Now, thank you so much for telling me about your walk in the park today. It sounds like it was a lovely day, but I just want to see, what is it I can do to help you? How can I help you today? I would love to help you resolve any issues you're having or deal with any inquiries that you may have. Now, this is the point where your customer needs to now tell you what on earth you can do to help them. Once they have explained the query and you know what it is they need, then deal with the inquiry as usual and get to the heart of the issue and solve whatever it is that they need. And finally, you want to be able to signpost the oversharing customer to other organizations or to a different department or to a completely different place altogether. So be confident in your ability to signpost an oversharing customer. If it's that you cannot help them, maybe it's that they need to speak to another organisation. For example, in the UK, we have an organisation called Age UK, and they help elderly people with a number of things. So you may want to signpost them there, or maybe you're face to face and you're in a retail store, but what they want, you don't sell it. So you can signpost them to try another retail store, down the road or whatever it may be. So make sure to be knowledgeable in your role so that you can have that ability to signpost customers to other places that may be able to help them. The fourth and final challenging customer is the complaining customer. Now, I dealt with these types of customers for 7 years straight when I worked for the UK government as an investigator and a complaint handler. Now, don't be scared of a complaining customer. They are just as human as you and me, but there are some things that you can do to help them in the complaint process. So the first thing you want to do is to find out on the phone or in person, is this complaint informal or is it formal? Now, the difference between the two is that an informal complaint can be resolved with you there and then with the customer without any major investigation. A formal complaint needs to go through your company's internal complaints procedure. So if it's an informal complaint and it's a minor issue, then you yourself deal with that issue there and then. The example we used about the restaurant earlier, about the customer getting cold food, I would call that a minor complaint that you can resolve there and then. A major complaint or something that needs further investigation is going to be anything that requires a longer time to investigate it, to see what's happened, anything that needs a manager to approve on any kind of compensation, and if the customer is demanding for it to be looked into as a formal complaint as well. So that's the first thing you need to determine. Is this a formal complaint where I am going to have to go through my internal complaints procedure, or is it something more informal that I can deal with myself? So if this is a formal complaint, you are going to be responsible for making sure you take that complaint through the complaints process, whether that's you actually investigating it yourself or that's going to go to somebody else on a complaints team or to a manager or whatever the process may be. However, there's a few things you can do with the customer there and then to make sure the complaint process runs smoothly. Now, a complaining customer is likely to be upset or angry or frustrated. So you want to really come back to that corporate apology and apologize on behalf of your organization for whatever it is that they're having to complain about. Next, you want to gather as much information as you can and record that in the appropriate place. Maybe it's a complaint form, maybe it's in an email to your manager, maybe you need to jot things down and then type it up later, but gather as much information as you can and really understand what is the customer unhappy about. You can also ask them what is it they would like to resolve the query or to resolve the complaint. You'd be surprised. Sometimes customers, they just want an apology, someone to say sorry. Sometimes they want compensation. Sometimes they want a refund. So if you can find out what they want, it makes it 100 times easier for whoever's dealing with that complaint to resolve the issue for the customer. If you think the complaint is going to need evidence, such as a receipt for a purchase, any kind of email, then ask the customer to provide that information to you and send it to you so that you can forward that on to the complaints investigator, or if you're going to deal with it yourself, you will have that information as well. Evidence is crucial because it helps to resolve a complaint and it helps the person investigating the case to know what's happened and what hasn't happened. And finally, for a complaining customer, you want to explain what is going to happen next. Explain how long it's going to take for the complaint to be resolved, when they should expect a response, and what the possible outcomes are. So there you have it. Those are the 4 types of challenging customers and how to deal with each of them. I hope you found this video useful. Please give it a like and subscribe to this channel so you can get more customer service and customer experience training tips and videos, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you and bye.